Violent protests on the streets of Los Angeles escalate. Workers seek help from the Labor Department after a restaurant chain reportedly closes down. And the standby signal number 1 may be issued between Tuesday night and early Wednesday at the soonest. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. Major roads were blocked, cars set on fire, and reports of violence and looting. This as protests over immigration enforcement escalated in Los Angeles in response to President Donald Trump's decision to send in the National Guard. There were also reports of violent protests in San Francisco. In Hong Kong, the SAR government reminded those who were already in the U.S. or planning to visit the country to attend to personal safety. David Garrett reports.
National Guard troops called in and police fire rubber bullets as aggravated protesters were told to leave downtown Los Angeles. Demonstrators running away. They were in central LA to show their anger at President Donald Trump's detentions of alleged illegal workers and his decision to deploy the National Guard. Numbers have grown over the 3 days of demonstrations. Again, cars were set ablaze with reports of lawlessness and looting. This stemming from immigration and custom enforcement raids in recent days, a policy of Trump.
If we think there's a serious insurrection or less than that, we're going to have law and order. In Los Angeles, we watched it very closely. There was a lot of violence there. There was a lot of violence, and it could have gotten much worse. You have an incompetent governor.
California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat and opponent of Trump, says it was the president's decision to send the National Guard that caused this. Newsom calling the decision a serious breach of state sovereignty, and the city's mayor agrees.
What we're seeing in LA is chaos caused by the administration. People should exercise their right to protest. That's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. I was hoping to prevent this situation from happening. I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos. It's the last thing our city needs.
The 101 freeway that cuts through the city was shut down for most of the day. Sit-in protesters blocked the road as smoke rose up in the background. Encircled protesters fought battles with police. Patrol cars were pelted with rocks and other items from a flyover. Officers got out of their cars and took cover under bridges.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
Hundreds protesting in California, San Francisco, with tension simmering there. This crowd was moved down Market Street. Some windows were smashed. These people wanting to get across their message that ICE should be abolished, saying immigrants should be welcomed as neighbours.
The people, united, will never be defeated.
David Garrett, TVB News.
Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent were reportedly in a physical altercation at the White House after a meeting with President Trump in April. The pair had to be pulled apart. The Washington Post reports that the Tesla CEO rammed his shoulder into Bessent's ribcage. It happened after leaving the Oval Office following talks with Trump over a new IRS commissioner. Bessent confronted Musk, calling him a total fraud over Musk's claims of wasteful and fraudulent government spending. Musk, visibly angered, pushed into Bessent, who hit back, with the pair having to be separated. Musk left Trump's administration last month and has been involved in a public feud with Donald Trump over economic policy. The very hot weather warning is in force. This afternoon, the observatory recorded a high temperature of 34.3 degrees Celsius. And the observatory will issue the standby signal number 1 between Tuesday night and early Wednesday at the earliest. This as a broad area of low pressure is expected to develop into a tropical cyclone. A scorching Monday. Passers-by all dressed in summer outfits. Some people continued to work out under the heat. The observatory says an anti-cyclone aloft is bringing very hot weather to the coast of southern China. Meanwhile, a broad area of low pressure over the central part of the South China Sea is expected to gradually develop into a tropical cyclone today and on Tuesday. The observatory will issue the standby signal number 1 between Tuesday night and early Wednesday at the soonest, depending on tropical cyclone's rate of development and the time of entering within 800 kilometers of Hong Kong. Authorities will assess the need of issuing a higher tropical cyclone warning signal between Wednesday and Thursday. A group of workers flocked to Labor Department branches to seek help after the restaurant chain King Parrot Group reportedly closed down. 9 eateries were affected by the chain's sudden closure. The Hotels, Food and Beverage Employees Association said it had received more than 100 requests for assistance from former employees. Some affected staff members were paid their wages for May and June, but have yet to receive their payment in lieu of notice and severance pay. They said the company hadn't paid contributions to their mandatory Provident Fund accounts for the past half year. Unionist lawmaker Lam Chun Sing estimated the unsettled payments to be worth over $4 million. He worried that the insolvency fund might not be able to cover the owed money. The fund doesn't cover MPF contributions. Established in 1992, King Parrot Group ran more than 20 brands and at least 30 restaurants at its peak. The group closed down last Friday. The government listed the main ingredient of space oil, etomidate, and 3 related compounds as dangerous drugs in February. The Hospital Authority's New Territories East cluster has seen no notable change in recent months in the number of people seeking help because of space oil. But the number of space oil-related cases recorded by the police since February is already higher than the figure for the whole of last year. Mimo Singhai reports.
Using the pseudonym C, this man said he used to take traditional drugs such as cocaine and methamphetamine. In January this year, he tried space oil for the first time because he thought the drug would not have a strong effect, but he could not stop afterwards. The Hospital Authority's New Territories East cluster says since they received the first space oil drug patient last year, the number has been rising. The hospital cluster said many of them are under 21 years old, with the youngest being 12. Some patients would develop conditions including convulsion. To help increase patients' motivation to detox, the hospital cluster has introduced virtual reality games. The games will present scenarios where individuals may come in contact with drugs, illustrating the potential consequences of drug consumption. The government listed etomidate, the main ingredient of space oil, and 3 related compounds as dangerous drugs in mid-February. As of the end of April, authorities had recorded 218 space oil-related cases in a 3.5-month period. This compares with 214 cases during the whole year of 2024. Police say they will step up their cyber patrol to catch the drug sellers out. Mums 9, TVB News.
Frederick Ma, the newly appointed chairman of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, said the body is looking into adjusting the location of its overseas offices, taking geopolitical factors into account. Ma made the comments during a media luncheon today. He said the trade promotion body is currently reviewing its 51 trade offices across the globe. Ma did not reveal whether they will close down some of their offices in Europe or the U.S. However, he said they will adjust the number of offices in accordance with geopolitical factors. For example, Ma said if the city's leader visits the Middle East, it is crucial to have officers stationed there to assist him. Musk stressed the importance of helping small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, cope with uncertainty sparked by the U.S. President Donald Trump's policies.
In the past, we focused on so-called traditional market. We would bring them to America, Europe, ASEAN. But given what's going on, we might bring them to other cities, like African countries, Latin America, okay? So we will have to, that is why I said at the outset that we need to re-examine our own resource allocation, location of our offices to help these companies. Now, to get out of their comfort zone, they also have to do a lot themselves. I mean, we can only assist, but it is up to the SMEs to get out of their comfort zone and break into new markets.
Still ahead, Vice Premier He Lifeng set to have trade talks with U.S. representatives in London today. Some 60,000 young fish released into waters near the airport to enrich marine resources. And snooker star Judd Trump to take part in two-day exhibition tournament in the city. Welcome back. A Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier He Lifeng will sit down at the negotiation table with U.S. representatives in London for a new round of talks to further diffuse trade tensions. The British government said it is not involved in the talks. A White House official said the U.S. intends to secure a deal with China on the flow of rare earths. Danny Zhou has the story.
Vice Premier He Lifeng arrived at number 11 Downing Street on Sunday and met with UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. It was their second meeting since January. He's visit to Britain, running from June the 8th to 13th, will include the first meeting of the China-US Economic and Trade Consultation Mechanism, attended by 3 senior aides to US President Donald Trump. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Trade Representative Jameson Greer, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. The talks are due to last at least a day. While the two sides reached a fragile trade truce in last month's meetings in Geneva, Switzerland, a range of other issues remain unsolved, including U.S. export curbs on semiconductors and artificial intelligence-linked technologies. In recent weeks, the flow of rare earths has become a new flashpoint in the Sino-U.S. trade relationship. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said in an interview that U.S. negotiators would seek to reach a deal with China at the forthcoming talks in London in a bid to restore the flow of Chinese rare earth metals and magnets to pre-April levels. Hassett said those materials are critical for mobile phones and everything else, and they don't want any technical details slowing that down. He also claimed a trade deficit was one of the reasons Washington slapped tariffs on Chinese goods, and added the Trump administration is reducing inflation and helping lower the deficit by getting revenue from other countries. Donald Trump, who spoke with Chinese leader Xi Jinping by phone last Thursday, said President Xi had agreed to allow the flow of rare earths and magnets to the U.S., but Beijing hasn't confirmed this. In April, authorities announced a raft of export restrictions on key rare earths following Trump's imposition of 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. The curbs led to the shutdown of several car production lines and plants in Europe and sent shockwaves to supply chains of semiconductors and military equipment around the globe. Last week, China's Commerce Ministry partially lifted those restrictions in response to growing demand driven by industries such as robotics and clean energy vehicles. The easing of export controls suggests a potential recalibration of Beijing's rare earth policy. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
UK Finance Minister Rachel Reeves is reportedly set to meet with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng during his visit to Britain this week. The Vice Premier is in the UK for separate trade talks with representatives from the US. Meanwhile, a UK government minister played down concerns about a proposal for a large new Chinese embassy in London. Daniel Rao tells us more.
China's foreign ministry said Vice Premier He Lifeng would be in the UK between June 8th and June 13th for trade talks with 3 of US President Donald Trump's top aides. A British government source said UK Finance Minister Rachel Reeves would host her for a bilateral meeting during the trip. Reeves met her during a visit to China in January as part of UK attempts to improve ties with Beijing. Bolstering Sino-British relations has been one of the main policy goals of UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government. However, many British lawmakers remain sceptical of China. Plans for the construction of a large new Chinese embassy in London remain a divisive subject. Britain's opposition Conservative Party has called for it to be blocked. The Chinese government wants to build the embassy on the site of the former Royal Mint near the Tower of London. It would be the largest Chinese embassy in Europe. Still, requests for planning permission have been rejected by the local council. The British government will make a final decision on the matter. A UK government minister played down concerns about the embassy.
These issues will be taken care of assiduously in the planning process. But just to reassure people, we deal with embassies and these sorts of infrastructure issues all the time. We are very experienced of it, and we are very aware of these sorts of issues constantly, not just when new buildings are being done, but all the time. And if people raise security issues, even though it relates to planning, then I'm sure we will have a fulsome response for them. But look, the key thing is, these are issues which are quite routinized in the way that we deal with the security of our country. This is not new. It's going through planning. These are issues that will be dealt with in that process.
According to the Sunday Times, the US has also warned the British government against going ahead with the proposal. This due to concerns about plans to position the embassy over significant communication cables and its proximity to London's financial district. Dan Rowell, TV News.
The airport authority recently released 60,000 young fish into the waters near Hong Kong International Airport, hoping to enrich marine resources. Samantha Lee takes a closer look.
Some 60,000 juvenile fish moved to their new home on the annual National Fish Releasing Day on June 6th. Vessels are not allowed to enter the western waters of the airport central runway without permits from the Marine Department. This will be the place where the juvenile fish thrive. Before the young fish were free to go, they were put into a cage submerged in water to adapt to the sea. Divers then released the fish after dragging the cage to the bottom of the sea. The airport authority says a total of 600 artificial reefs were set up as homes for the fish. Made of concrete, these artificial reefs have a coarse surface and multiple holes to mimic natural reef structures from marine life. The fish released comprised 4 species reared in mainland China: green grouper, yellowfin sea bream, black sea bream, and white flower croaker, which is a favorite food source for Chinese white dolphins. They had stayed in the waters of Sai Kung for 2 to 3 weeks before being sent to the airport. 10,000 crescent sweet lips raised locally in Shanwan in Sai Kung were also released. The airport authority said it had consulted local fishermen on the choice of the fishes to be released.
With this fish release and the deployment of artificial reef, we're expecting that the fishery resources and the marine ecology's value will be improving in the coming years.
He added the authority is planning to introduce more fish to the area in 2027. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Hong Kong snooker fans are in for a treat as world #1 Judd Trump and scores of the sport's biggest names are set to take part in a 2-day exhibition tournament in the city starting tomorrow. Trump, who's been residing in Hong Kong for half a year, shared how he's been adapting to local customs. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Snooker stars snacking on Hong Kong delicacies, a scene that may become more common with world #1 Judd Trump having called the city home for half a year under the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme. The British sportsman, along with fellow English and Thai snooker players Jack Lazowski and Tapchai Unnu, visited a local cafe to get a taste of some of the city's most popular snacks. Local snooker aficionados will be able to see their favorite stars in person at the Queen Elizabeth Stadium in Wan Chai as they play in the Greater Bay Area Snooker Cultural Challenge between tomorrow and Wednesday.
There's so much to do. I think because also Hong Kong is quite small that you can go to like the beach or you can go hiking. Everything is very, very close and easy. Where I'm from in Bristol, there's no views and no big buildings, so to be here in the middle of Hong Kong is very, very special. And
the snooker star also noted his surprise about the sport's popularity in the city and pointed out some of the advantages of moving here.
I didn't realize how many people watch snooker in Hong Kong. So I think the main thing for me is now, because there's a lot of tournaments in this area, I think is an advantage that I'm always on the time zone as well. I look forward to, in the future, being able to see all the different types of culture and festivals in China.
Besides praising the city's food scene and skyline, Trump held Hong Kong's geographical proximity to the mainland and other Asian countries, and emphasized the convenience for players to participate in future snooker events in a region where snooker is ever growing in popularity. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.